Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. So we are in the midst of the Granite Doorkeep fusion, and of course the summon rush is upon us, so we are going to be pulling some shards in pursuit of the fragments, or the rare champion, excuse me, for the purposes of securing the fusion. So I did have some prediction in my fusion plan video, as well as the fusion plan spreadsheet, which are linked in that video, but I talked about what I thought, or at least I had what I thought would be the milestones for the summon rush, and I was slightly underestimating the upper milestone, but I was correct on the lower milestone, which again, for those who watched that video, it's based on historical precedent, so they're fairly consistent with how they approach these. But 7 sacreds worth to get the rare, which is not super high and it's not super low, it's about average for what we've seen historically, especially for traditional style fusions. But having the epic be at 6100 is a bit on the higher end of the spectrum. This is on par with like Fabian and other such champions who, generally speaking, are a little bit higher caliber than Granite himself, so it is a bit on the higher side. But we've seen values 6100 again is the highest. You know, we've seen 5500, 5400, 4000. So anywhere in this range is kind of the norm. But going all the way out to 6000 is pretty steep. However, the flexibility or the trade-off there is that if you were to go all the way out there, you could skip 4 of the events in the fusion, which could make it a lot easier for potentially less investment. And the thing I always like to point out to people is that do not forget about the existence of mystery shards, because of course, if you wanted to pull 6,000 mystery shards and you have that, you could get all the way to the epic for basically no cost. So it kind of depends where you are with your overall shard status. But in my specific case, when it comes to traditional style fusions, I always ignore the epic. I'd rather do all of the events unless I happen to get lucky and pull some of the fusion rares. We'll come back to that a little bit later. But my goal here is to get out to the 3,500. So that is going to be the goal. However, as much as I would love to pull my sacreds because of some relatively desirable champions being offered up for grabs, we are going to do this with the voids, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Popping over to the portal, let's talk about my overall shard count, my account, as well as my particular strategy when it comes to this particular summon rush. So in total, we have 548 on the ancients, 221 on the void, 62 on the primals, and then 48 on the sacreds. The strategy element comes in when we're talking about mercy. So this is my mercy tracker. This will be, a copy of this is linked in the description box down below if you'd like to use this for yourself. And so I do manually track my mercy in this style of a spreadsheet. But you can see here, voids, of course, we're fresh off of mercy. We did a recent pulling all the way to mercy, trying to go for the Queen of Hearts. We did not get her, but we did get something else. I won't spoil it in case you do want to go back and watch that video. But the main thing to point out here is that I am already in Sacred Mercy at the moment. So I'm heavily disincentivized from pulling my Sacred Charge, despite the progressive chances going on right now. The logic here being that if there is a Sacred Pogo, pull one, get one in the near term, I could get 2 legendaries for this Mercy proc for the price of 1, instead of risking getting 1 right now. So with that in mind, while I definitely would love to try and shoot my shot for Freya, there's also the element of the odds are ridiculously low. So we could pull 7 sacreds, we could still not get a legendary, although that becomes increasingly less likely. Of course, that's how the mercy system works. But even if we did get a legendary, there's only around a 5% chance that legendary, i.e. 1 in 20, that champion would be Freya. So the odds are extremely low. And so again, I could be burning my mercy, my opportunity to get 2 legendaries for the price of 1 on a champion who most likely will not be the champion selected here. And so because we are fresh off of Void Mercy, there's basically no downside to pulling voids instead. So we're just going to select some champions here. I picked Shuzen, doesn't really matter. I don't expect to get another void legendary in the next 30 voids shards, which is what it is going to take to get us out to 3,500-ish points. And given that my Void Mercy has reset, pulling 30 voids will push us towards the next mercy pull. But more likely than not, just statistically speaking, you know, some 2x voids is more likely to give me a void legendary long before I get to mercy, but you never know. There could be some bad RNG along the way. Now, in terms of who we're looking to pop out of these shards, like I said, I picked Shuzen. I don't really care. I mean, she'd be nice to have. I'm not going to complain, but she's not really my optimal choice. However, honestly, the most desirable champion would be the fusion rare himself. So if we take a look at the fusion, of course, the fusion rare is a void rare, and there's not that many void rares in the pool. So if I can get any amount of these, what are they called? Something wolves, but any amount of the wolves are going to be one event that I could skip, which could be very lucrative in terms of skipping other events. So that's another reason I could be benefiting from pulling voids instead of sacreds. So I could skip the champion chase, perhaps. I could skip dungeon divers, which are always painful. So depending on how many, if any, that we get, we could be a little bit more strategic with the entire course of the fusion. So that has some great potential. In terms of epics, we're still looking for basically the same ones. We did manage to get Whisper in the last pull session, so I do finally have my duplicate copy that I've been building up for my super double whisper Phantom Shogun team. But my primary whisper is still only at +2, so more copies of her to empower the primary one would be good as well. And I guess long term I need to empower both of them. And then Inquisitor Shamail, I would like copies of him. I still have only pulled 1, so he's not empowered at all. And then Basher I think is at +1, so I'd like to get him higher as well. But we'll focus there. Again, 30 voids, ridiculously unlikely to get another void legendary, especially when a non-2x, but of course you never know. But without further ado, let's dive into the action here. I don't have that much space. We're going to be pulling into the reserve vault once again. We've got tons of cash, and yeah, hopefully we get some decent luck. Again, we're primarily looking for the fusion rare. I think that's the most lucrative thing that we could earn from this session. And hey, we're starting it off. Hey, we'll take it. There's our Inquisitor Shamail. That's great. So that is empowerment for him. 3 void epics in a non-2x is pretty substantial, so we'll definitely take that. And again, we only need to pull 30 voids in order to get the 3,500 points. So it's not a huge investment relative to the amount of void shards that I have overall. But 4 epics in 1 10 pop on a non-2x is kind of crazy, not going to lie to you. But I think this is one of the newer nukers, a previous fusion champion. She's not that great, like a bunch of single target damage and self-buffing, so not great. Demitha, of course, popular for the Mythfu, Mythair type Demon Lord Clan Boss teams, the unkillable teams that have somewhat been eclipsed by the Wixwell Titus style of teams. But nonetheless, you know, if you're more starting out, Demitha is definitely the way to go. And then honorable mention to Reliquary Tender, great Reviver Cleanser rare option, who I still use in my Nether Spider team. And then Ayala Lifebraid, she kind of has like the Relentless set built into her passive, although it only applies to like 1 champion per turn. So not that great, but you know, could be useful. I've never had a reason to use her in my case. So bunch of rares is more what we're expecting, and hopefully we can get some wolves in the 10 pop. And no, not quite. So not much to say there, unfortunately. Last 10 pop, here we go. This session is meant to be short and sweet, so hopefully we walk away with at least 1 fusion rare. Man, we are striking out here. Not a single one. Bloodhorn is good. That is a new or a future Broadmaw. And the last 2, man, okay, apparently there's more void rares in the pool now than I anticipated, but unfortunately we don't get to skip any events, but that's okay. That was the original plan from the get-go, so that really doesn't really change anything in the long term. But let's double check my math. We should be slightly overshooting, and as you can see here, yeah, we're at 3,600, so slightly overshot, but good enough for our purposes relative to completing the fusion. So fusion rare is acquired. Unfortunate that we did not get any other fusion rares. I really was hoping to skip maybe the Champion Chase, or maybe like I said, the third Dungeon Divers, but that was not a Glade Wolf, that's his name, but that did not come to pass. So unfortunate there, but nonetheless, that is how it is. I'm personally still happy that we happened to get the prog chance on Inquisitor Shamail. Like I mentioned, that even though I don't use him anymore in Hydra Clan Boss, I still use him where he's useful to, you know, get rid of fears and whatnot. So having some empowerment for him is pretty useful for me on my account. I think he's in the vault somewhere. And but yeah, that is going to do it for today's video. Like I said, we're going to keep this one short and sweet. So fusion rare is acquired, and that was the goal for the day. Let me know in the comment section down below what your strategy was for this particular summon rush. Were you going with the sacreds? Were you going with voids? Were you going with some other combination? Are you going for the rare, or are you going for all the way out to the epic as well? Let me know what your strategy has been. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. Really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit the subscribe button down below as well, if and only if you are enjoying the content overall on this channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.